Good morning out there. Pretty sure it's the 25th of May, Wednesday. No, I haven't checked the calendar or my watch, my clock, my phone. Yes, it's early in the morning. Um, been flooded with ideas. Am I fearful? A little bit. I think people are waking up, which is really good. The sad thing is that the evil guys, when they have nothing else, they go to war. They make us go to war, so don't be surprised if they try to ignite this war full blown. It's their only out that they have. The, this system that we have is so corrupt. We don't even we aren't a republic. We haven't been a republic since I would say since Abraham Lincoln did his bullshit. He destroyed the republic. It's been disassembled in pieces before that, but since then mostly. Um, and we certainly don't have any damn democracy at all. I mean, the electorate is not in charge. We know that the machines are at work, and the machines are illegal as hell. They've been doing this stuff to us for a long, long time. Don't be too upset. Don't let yourself get too stressed. You need to turn inward a little bit, but don't be too reflective and don't take too much upon yourself. I'm guilty of that one. I take too much upon myself. You probably can tell that by now if you've been listening at all. Uh, I will recommend you get one of these books that we printed those things up in Belarus. Well, I didn't do that. I'm just representing this Bible and doing my best to get it out there. It was printed up in Belarus before this stuff happened. Um, Everybody did an excellent job on it. I can tell you that. I haven't been reading it enough. I've been scattered a bit. I've been trying to take care of my own situation. I had a health thing, got a bad reaction to a procedure, and it's real painful. And it's getting better, but I'm still in a lot of pain. And I'm just kind of one pissed off dude because of the amount of pain. It's pretty sensitive. Okay, that's all I'm going to tell you. Um, Folks are digging in. They realize that things aren't right. Our government is doing the best they can to restrict. Well, we don't have a First Amendment. These digital platforms, these big brother kind of services, they've all taken that away from us. So we can't even have an open discussion and brainstorm things. That gets censored. So it's not possible to have a discussion, to have an honest dialogue, to even find the evidence. We just can't do that right now. The news media is worse probably than big tech is at this point. The news media has been feeding us a bunch of bullshit for so long. I don't think that. I mean, if I was president, I would yank their license in a heartbeat, maybe less. I mean, I'd pull their licenses to broadcast. They wouldn't be able to do it anymore. But I'd also be doing a lot of other stuff right now. For one, I think I'd be taking all those senators and congressmen into custody, protective custody for their own good. But I actually want to investigate them and prosecute them and actually go after the history that's in their families as well, especially when it comes to Mr. Schiff, whose father or grandfather started World War One. Okay, and I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the Jews and how it can't be the Jews as much as we all want to finger somebody and blame somebody. You got to look at the Catholics too. You got to look at the Protestants as well. Protestants screwed things up quite a bit. We took the Apocryphal books out of the Bible. Man, what a mistake that was. What I wanted to tell you about was that there were 200 fallen angels that conspired on Mount Hermon, and they even swore an oath not to even discuss the matter, even among themselves, once they left Mount Hermon. But the agreement was they were going to go into all of these daughters of men and take them for wives. They were going to go have sex and impregnate the heck out of as many as they could. Now, in the Bible, we only have one of these fallen angels noted, and there's 200 of them. So think about that. This is much bigger than what you or I think. It's much bigger than what the Bible reports. The Bible reports that Gadriel seduced Eve, gave birth to Cain. Okay, Cain in turn ended up somehow or other spoiling the lines of Ishmael and Esau, who became known as Edom. Edom occupied Mount Seir in southern Israel for quite a while. They were the Edomites, or Idumeans. That's the Greek word for Edomite. Edomite is, I believe, I wanted to say Armenian, but Aramaic, I believe, or Hebrew. The two are so related. I don't separate them all that well. They stayed there on Mount Seir way after the temple was destroyed until about 700 AD. Then they heard the Khazarians, the Ukraine, same people, were converting to Judaism. So they migrated up to help the Khazarians with their newfound faith. They're just a bunch of converts. They're not Israelites. They're not descendants of Israel. They're Turkish-Mongolian seed. Israelites are Caucasoids. From what I can tell, Caucasoids. Now, I don't know if there's any Negroids in there or not. I mean, it's a possibility. I just say be open-minded to it. The Ethiopians have a certain claim, and the first convert in the New Testament was an Ethiopian, I believe. I might be reading it wrong. So I need you to understand, be flexible on this stuff. So the Edomites went north and helped the Bulgar, whatever his name was, the head of the Khazarian Empire, helped him and his nobles convert to Judaism. And they brought up some of that DNA they got from Gabriel, from their father, with them. Now, not every Khazarian got polluted by that DNA, okay? It's an impossibility. It's not probable. Certainly some of them got tainted by it. There was some tainting with that fallen satanic DNA of the Khazarians. In about 1100 AD, the Khazarians got driven off by the Russians, I believe. The White Russians and the beautiful Russians, the Belarus. I believe that all of the folks in the area got together, fed up with the war stuff and the sociopathic culture that was in their midst, and they drove them west. Most of them settled in Poland, not that far away. Some went up to the Baltic states. Some went into Europe. Now, mind you, these are Khazarians, and there's Ashkenazi among them. Or were they all Ashkenazi? What happened on that? We don't really know. I don't really know. So there's holes in my knowledge. So what I'm telling you is that they were moved out of the area. And if we look in the Bible, the name Ashkenazi is in the book of Genesis. Those boring genealogies have a purpose. Ashkenazi was mentioned. Now I know sometimes I obliterate the word and I mispronounce it, say Ashkenazi. And I say that to make a point. We can't trust that group in particular because they contain this small element, not a large element. However, we can say that George Soros, he's definitely, one of those guys, descendant of Edom, okay? We can say that the Rockefellers were also the same group. The Schiffs are of the same group. The Bowers, who took the name Rothschild, they're of the same group. The Frankfurt School in Germany, that horrible school, the Sabbateans, all that stuff, they all come from the Khazarians and the Ashkenazi. Now, I'm not going to separate them for you. I haven't studied this or thought about it very much. But I want to go back and I want to remind you that not all Caucasians are Israelites. You may say, well, yes, we are. Every Caucasian is Israelite. No, it's impossible. Just use a little common sense. Think about it. Abram, not Abraham, it wasn't called Abraham yet, but Abram came out of his father was Terah, okay. And he left his people. God says, leave them. I will give you whatever. I'm going to give you the promised land. I'm going to make you more plentiful than the stars in the sky, the sands on the seashore. I'm going to bless you, and you're going to be the father of many nations, plural. which means that Abram left a whole bunch of Caucasians behind. So the vast majority of Caucasians are not likely to be Israelites or descendants of Israel. There were no Israelites until the man Jacob who became known as Israel, had children. And so those are the Israelites. The proper DNA of Jacob, Israel, the man, and his 4 wives. And in case you're wondering, people who are against, I wanted to say polytheism, but against having several wives, polygamy. Even David thanked the Lord for his wives and for his concubines. Now, a concubine is a little bit different than what we have here today. Sugar babies are not concubines. It's kind of a twisted version of that. A concubine was actually exclusive property that a man owned back then, and a man was obligated to take care of and, to support. Usually provided them their own separate household and took care of them. The Mormons had that tradition for a bit, and some of them still practice that. Do I want to get down on them? Not necessarily, because we know that Israel was practiced that and did that for a particular reason, and that was to have these nations, for us to be born. So, what I want to get you to understand is that it's all mixed up. The roots are intertwined, quite literally. So you can't uproot the bad guys without taking the good guys with them at this point in time in history. What we do know is that there will be a pruning of the weeds. There will be a bunch of raptors, not a rapture, but we know that the evil ones will be removed and the good will be left behind. Read the Bible carefully and you'll see that in Luke, where it describes one will be taken, one will be left. At the very end, you got to go to the end of that chapter. I don't remember which chapter it was. I want to say the 3rd, but I don't think that's it. I think the 3rd is a whole nother genealogy. Anyway, it's the last verse of the chapter where the apostles ask their teacher, "Hey, where did these people go to that disappeared?" And Yeshua's answer is that where you find the vultures, there you'll find the carrion, the dead bodies. And so that links up with the great supper of the Lord, in which generals, kings, and queens, the flesh of all of those is fed to the birds. You need to read it. It's a little bit more violent than what you think, and it's quite a bit more different than this twisted stuff that the dispensationalists tried to conjure up and give us, foist upon us. So, 200 fallen angels. What else does that relate to? Well, Pastor Wiki's idea that he come up with after all the years of reading the Bible and teaching was that there was a fallen angel at the head of each one of these churches, each one of these religions. Now, we already have the Mormons who have the name of their fallen angel. They know the name of it. It's Moroni. The Church of Latter-day Saints are pretty fine people. I enjoy them quite a bit. Pretty disciplined. Pretty good hierarchy. The rank and file, not much wrong with them. They're real good people. Kind of like the Roman Catholic Church. The rank and file, pretty good people. Not much wrong with them. What can I say? In Azerbaijan, the capital of Azerbaijan, I believe I'm getting that right. It's early in the morning. There's a capital city of this one landlocked nation that I thought was a Muslim nation. It turns out that they've got real modern architecture in their capital. I mean, just beautiful buildings, very symbolic though, and quite symbolic of evil. And in there is a round table. And every one of those religions has a seat at the round table. I'm not kidding you. It's a big round table, lots of slices of that pie, lots of people sitting at that table. Dead center of the table is the sun. Up above is in the dome above them is the sun. And they're all worshiping the sun. They're all connected to the sun. Now I'm going to make this pretty quick here, but the sun basically is named Apollo according to the Greek myths. Now, why, pray tell, in the book of Revelations do we have the name Apollyon for the angel of the pit of the great abyss, the one who comes up from the pit to screw around with the rest of the earth? It's all interrelated. It's all been being told to us, has been told to us at very different levels, very deep levels of mystery. You've got to take into account the Mayans, their calendar. You've got to take into account, I think it's called Teotihuacan, that city that's way up there, about 14,000 feet up in the Andes. In their carvings, they have the sun with different phases, and there's one in there in which the sun is very angry and is throwing lightning bolts at the earth in the form of serpents, snakes, head first at the earth. Well, I believe they're trying to tell us that the sun gets irritated, pissed off, and the sun takes it out on the earth. And I believe that this magnificent solar system of ours goes around the Milky Way galaxy and comes to these different nodes in the galaxy in which energy is exchanged, and there might be an abundance of some sort of radiation or dust, perhaps. There's a couple of ways to look at this stuff. Some ways we consider it radiation, other ways we consider it dust particles. And when we come to the same point in time in this giant orbit around the Milky Way, we have similar events. And one of those is extinction and speciation. Extinction's easily understood. Earth gets destroyed, species gets destroyed. Okay? Or limited destruction of the earth, limited species destroyed. However, speciation's one I don't understand. Now, we've got talks by one guy who's been a priest most of his life, who's now got another channel going, and he does the weird stuff. And he's trying to say that the Bible basically is about the sky people rather than a particular Yahweh or a particular God. That it's about the sky people that rule over the earth. Now, what if the sky people just refer to the other inhabitants in the universe? And what if those folks were way advanced? And what if they used the earth as a playground or a giant laboratory? An experiment, if you will. What if they were so advanced they lost their roots, they lost their ability to love and to care? They just were so rational that they just weren't connecting up like they used to. They would probably keep us for pets, for their enjoyment and their pleasure, just like we hear the old gods from the myths. We lived at their pleasure. And that's kind of what we heard that Yahweh did. That he was alone and he created us for his pleasure? Or did he have a family here? Don't know on that one. So how much genetic engineering, how much playing do we have we been subjected to here on the earth? How many different types of humanoids have there been? Star people. Okay, you take that star shape of a man that Da Vinci drew up for us a long time ago. We got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. That's 5 points. That is star-shaped. That seems to be the universal design for creatures of higher intelligence. I am worried right now. The knowledge we're about to discover might be a bit overwhelming for us. The evil ones still own the planet and run the place. We haven't gotten it back from them. The evil is so big, the conspiracy is so big, that no one man can hold the entire thing, grasp it, hold it in his mind, and understand it. I get pictures and glimpses of it all the time that shift around. Different things come into focus. Different things grab my attention. So I would have to say at this point that if we can keep the peace, we're going to be better off. However, this particular government, the central government of the United States of America, is not a democracy. Um, I don't even know if we could call it a communist government, but it certainly is dictatorial. And they've joined forces with the corporations to dictate to us. And the corporations all have interlocking corporate boards where same men and women sit on those. They're all controlled, and everything is incorporated. Everything is incorporated under another corporation. And all roads, all corporations lead to Rome. So we've got an amazing amount of deception going on. I know we're all worried about our money. Well, relax about it. There is no money. They stole all the money quite a while ago over the centuries. I have a book of color prints showing the frauds that they committed on the bills over time in this nation. And it was very subtle how they used to have big block letters printed out, then they reduced it to simple, thin handwriting that almost disappeared. You could barely see the stuff on their bills, their bonds, whatever you want to call those instruments. Oh, and before you get too upset with the Rothschilds, remember that they gave us our financial system, not just our central bank, but the stock market too, which I think is an abomination. I think they gave us that golden calf that came out of Egypt as well. The bull market. That's what's on Wall Street. Don't tell me there's not a golden calf, full-grown bull. Apis was the god's name out of Egypt, I believe. Don't tell me we're not worshiping that in this nation. They got us all worshiping, the bulls, the bull market, the stock market. Stock, cattle, stock, goyim, stock. It's right there in front of us. Back at the days of the Tower of Babel, we all spoke the same language. We understood each other. We were working together. I don't know if we were working together for something good or bad, though. But we do know that Yahweh came down with the other sky people. It was like the committee arrived, and they said, if we let them carry on, they'll become like us. So what did they do? They destroyed the tower they were building. Whatever scientific project that may have been. Could have been a genetic project, I think. And they confused the people and scattered the people. And people who went to one direction, their language was written from that side towards the tower. So they wrote from right to left, from east to west. People that fell on the other side of the tower, they wrote from west to east, from left to right. Ancient Israel wrote from right to left, backwards compared to modern Americans. Okay, well, the language changed and the direction changed at about the time, I want to say the Druids, but I don't think, the Welsh. The Welsh language in particular is the time when the syntax of early English was established, and we flipped the language. We stopped writing from the ancient Hebrew right to left, and we began writing from left to right. And the evidence is that the pillow stone, which was nicknamed Liafail, Liafail, which is spelled, I can't remember the technical term for this, majored in English, but I don't use those terms much. But then it was the same thing forward as backwards, and there's a peculiar name for that. If anybody can come up with it, please put it in the comments for me. I love getting educated here. So Liafail spelled and pronounced and said the same way forward and backwards. That change happened with the Welsh people in particular in Great Britain during the early days of, before even medieval English. That occurred. Now you got to remember, northern tribes of Israel were kicked out of the country, given a decree of divorcement by Yahweh. It's mentioned in there twice. So we were divorced, and we earned it. Why? Well, we're the ones that built the two golden calves, one at Shiloh and the other wherever, I don't know where it was at. I don't remember, Dan or something. There were two different golden calves built in the northern half of Israel so that people would be loyal to the king of Israel and not go down to Jerusalem where their loyalty would be divided and they would be loyal to the king of Judah instead. So the nation was divided for a reason, and that is that we screwed up. A lot of stories in the Bible about how the prophet shows up and I think he tears the cloth into 12 pieces and tells the future king to pick 10 of them, I think. And there's a story in there. I don't remember it very well. I got to spend more time in it. I really miss doing that. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this thing is really mixed up and messed up. That you're not going to be able to separate the good guys from the bad guys very well. Not at this point, but it's coming pretty soon. I think we're identifying them. I think we know who some of these bad guys are, and they're able to walk the earth freely right now. But, the gates of hell shall not prevail. So there's a few men that we need to round up, including all of these illustrious senators and congressmen and congresswomen that have been screwing this stuff up for so long. They sold us out really badly. They're trying, and they exchange money in Ukraine. That's nothing but a laundry place. It's the headquarters for the original nation, the Khazarians. Very important. And for you folks who think that Israel, the country, is illegal, or is legitimate, I don't know. I do know that everything's pretty much under God's control, under Yahweh's control, by design, by long time planning. What bothers me is that these devils are using long-term planning as well. And they're also using the same Bible. They're using that against us. They nickname each other after the characters in the Bible. The Bushes did that. I wonder what Biden's nickname is. I wonder what Trump's nickname is. And they joke with each other because they know they're all players. They're all actors on a stage, putting on a big show for us while the controllers stay behind the scenes. And we know that the most powerful man in the world is the Jesuit general. He controls the secret societies. He's also the Pope's boss. And the first bishop of Rome was in the book of Acts. He was Simon the sorcerer. That institution was bad from the get-go. And it was written in the present tense about the Antichrist. I believe the Antichrist is an institution, and I believe we're going to see a man marched out as the man who deceived the world at some point. And that will be the Antichrist. What you need to do is follow Yahshua's commands. Hold your ground. Be not deceived. Those are tough ones. We don't know whose ground is whose at this point. It does mean defend yourself. It does mean defend your very life. It does mean keep your position. We also know that the same countries that gave the Israelites trouble are involved today, giving the Israelites trouble today. The Syrians or the Assyrians were a problem back then. However, we have to remember that Yahweh used the Assyrians to correct us, to chastise us. And what was that sin that we committed? I wanted to say original, but this isn't quite the original. The original sin was committed by the fallen angels, not by Adam and Eve. Perhaps by Eve, and Adam went along with it. I wanted to call him a dumbass for a minute there, but I think Adam may have known what he was doing and known what he was choosing. And in that case, he may have just done that out of love for Eve. That's what Pastor Wiki thinks. I can't think of anything better. If you can, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Well, we believe that Adam sat down with his father Yahweh and they had a long discussion about Eve. And we believe that Adam chose to remain with her. That he loved her so much he couldn't live without her, so he chose death, he chose decay, he chose mortality over being without her. And I believe Yahshua was sent here to take care of that original sin and right that wrong. Oh, my Lord. And now we come to Solomon. Solomon was the wisest man ever. And he came up with a plan back then. A plan for waging war that he couldn't be beat in. And I don't know if he didn't plan some of this stuff we're going through. He had some bad neighbors. He associated with some bad people, namely Hiram. There are two different Hirams in the Old Testament. I had to travel and leave the group before we got very far in there. But that's pretty important. There's a lot of parallel construction and duplicity in the Bible, which makes it hard for us to understand, which is why we have to press in and read the Bible and go to the extra biblical books at times. We don't know what type of experiments are being run on us. We do know that the psychologists, that half of the psychologists and social scientists, psychiatrists, are working behind the scenes for the corporations and government, managing the plantation for their masters. We know they're running experiments all the time. I will tell you this because I can sense it, I can detect it. I don't have good evidence of it. So this is by my gut intuition. This is what I sense. And there are a lot of symbols in psychology that inform us of this. So they run, I can't remember half the terms these days, but multivariate types of experiments on us. They collect the data in their computers, they track their outcomes, and they keep honing their craft, fine-tuning their machines. And right now they're putting all the stress and strain they can on us. Yeah, it's getting to me too. That may be a matter of the design of the clockwork of this universe that we're in, of this galaxy in particular, because we might be going through this period in which we humans are more stressed by maybe the weakening of the magnetic field or the influx of radiation or of the space dust, if you will, because the Earth mass increases during these episodes and the rotation changes. It speeds up and it slows down. And it's been getting faster over the years, I believe. It's been getting larger too, more mass to the Earth. The evil ones may know of an event that's about to occur to us because they've had access to all the records. I think the first false flag was the burning of the library at Alexandria, and they did it not once but twice. It was so successful in gathering all the knowledge and all the manuscripts so they could have a lock on all that knowledge that they did it again. They repopulated the books in the library at Alexandria, and then they stole the books again. Then they burned the building down afterwards to hide their crime. Wonder where those books are today. Man, I can't wait till we seize the Vatican. I understand there's 8 miles of library corridors underneath the ground under the Vatican, where all that stuff is preserved in other languages. Maybe other elements too, other artifacts. I'm looking forward to that stuff being available. So you boys and girls who think that they know it all, or we older people know it all, we don't know shit. You guys are going to have access to the best knowledge base ever, especially when we open up Antarctica, find out what's down there. Back when Trump was becoming president, while he was running, Google was throwing all kinds of stuff my way about Antarctica, and it was overwhelming. It was like 30 videos in the morning and 12 at night. I couldn't watch them all. Some of the stuff was pretty weird and pretty off the charts. I remember the interview in black and white of Admiral Byrd in Argentina. They didn't put all that up there. I remember the reports about the Russians having the black and white video of our battle down there and us getting our asses kicked. And these spacecraft, if you will, flying out of the ocean, cutting up among our vessels and just wiping us out. The Russians were our allies at that point, so they were witnessing it. There's a lot of secrets in this country. The bad guys have been running this place for a long time. And I know a lot of you think the world of Tesla, but I'm not so sure he was a good man in some ways. I know his inventions have been misused for sure. I know that we've got incredible technology, incredible medical technology that we're not allowed to even know exists. We probably have all kinds of energy machines that are perpetual energy generators. We have all kinds of stuff, I'm certain, that's available to us. I just can't help but want to recommend trying to hold your peace. I had a friend who's had a show called Speak Your Peace on the radio quite a while back. I hope to get to visit her. I lost her number on my cell phone a while back. Oh, she wouldn't recognize me today. I wonder if my voice sounds the same, though. I feel a little bit hoarse right now. Look, folks, the man who tracked this grand conspiracy for most of the last century, much of it, said there were two separate thrusts, two separate actions, two separate groups, if you will. And that was and apparently the Illuminati was over both of them. However, for some reason, Khazarians or Ashkenazi, and a limited number, specific group of those in particular, were at the helm of both world communism, and Rabbi Stephen Weiss revealed that to us with his utterance that communism is Judaism. And then we have the other ones that were headed up by Theodor Herzl, who kind of recanted later in his career and his life. And the Zionists took this idea and went with it and abandoned him because they wanted to go with his real plan of ruling the world was pretty evil. So you've had those two working independently. But at this point, I would say that these two things have been combined. However, there's wild cards out there, and Putin's a wild card for sure. And I mean that in a complimentary way. He was a member of these secret societies, like most of these leaders were in order to get to where they are. They were compromised, but I think Putin got targeted. The other thing is I think Putin decided that he wanted Russia for the Russians, and he wanted to kick out the Ashkenazi. He wanted to kick out the Khazarians. He wanted to kick out the Rothschilds, the central bankers. He wanted all that out of there. And the other problem was that those people decided to build bases around his country, biolabs, weapons labs around his country, station their military forces around there, right, ready to go over. And I think Putin waited about as long as he could before he had to take this defensive action in defense of Russia. Now, self-defense is blessed. And the Russians are upset with Mr. Putin but not because he invaded the Ukraine. It's because they know, and we don't know, that they have an existential threat going on. And I would love to see a proper president in D.C. And the first thing I would like that proper president to say would be, Mr. Putin, we apologize. We stand down. Bring your evidence forward. Make your case. Bring your claim to the World Court. Present the evidence. We all want to know the truth. And just ask him, beg off. Do what you have to do right here and now. Limit it, though, and bring it to the World Court. I don't know if I trust any of these courts today. I don't think I trust the World Court. I certainly don't trust the United Nations. I don't trust our central communist government. The ATF is a criminal organization breaking the laws. They need to be abolished. If you're going to be a decent congressman, you need to choke off all of their finances immediately. I wish we had our full Second Amendment, especially our militias. We need those now because they are going to be wreaking havoc this summer. And I've been warning you boys to get the militias going, to call up your people under your governors, and to have a means of self-defense, local, not under the federal government whatsoever. It's in the Constitution. The militias are absolutely necessary. Imagine if you had a militia and somebody wants to go throwing over statues or burning buildings and stuff. Militiamen, under the authority given them, because they're well organized, under the authority of their governor even, under the authority of their commanders, can step in and stop it. Look at what happens with the police. They can't do it. Quite often they help the bad guys. The mayors order that bullshit. And look at the National Guard. I think they're misused too. They're under the president. They get sent abroad overseas. Man, things are so screwed up in this country. Remember that the Kents gave you patented land that couldn't be attached. That's what we gave the world from England. And we brought it here to the New World. And we had patented land. And you couldn't attach it. You couldn't tax it. You couldn't steal it from a man. Just similar to ancient Israel, where the land stayed with the family. That you had a year of jubilee, years of restoration. You had strict laws regarding your slavery for one, your indebtedness for another. You had strict laws governing all of that. And we are the Israelites. They brought in and turned us into Samaria. They brought in all these incompatible types. That's what I'll call them. These people who have worshipped us in our life and the myth that we represent, the American dream, which has held true to a large extent for a lot of people. But at this point, we're all slaves. That happened because of Abraham Lincoln's foibles and because of the pressures he was brought under. Now, I don't have the full data, but I believe that Lincoln was kind of forced into that. I believe the Rothschilds forced that stuff on us. And I believe that their Jesuit agents influenced the South in particular, but I think they had agents in the North too, manipulating the whole thing. So I would like to kick them all out. I'd like to return to WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Them I trust a lot more because I am one of them. Saxons, Isaac's sons. We're the real deal. We're not Gentiles grafted in by grace. That's bovine excrement. We're the original people with whom Yahweh formed and made the covenants. Right from the beginning, we're Abraham's seed. However, we share that with some other people, and y'all might not be too happy about that. I don't know. But you got to remember there were 12 boys, 12 Israelite tribes. And also in the Bible, if you bother to read it, you would find out there were 12 dukes. 12 dukes of Esau. No, let me back up a little bit. Yeah, I think it was, but there were 12 dukes. And I think that might have been, I think Ishmael had 12 dukes. Ishmael had 12 dukes. That's right. But somehow or other, that line got tainted up as well. So now that you understand that the original sin wasn't done by Adam and Eve, but was done to Eve by Gadriel, one of the 4 or 5, I think it was 5 leaders of the fallen angels. So you ladies out there that go blaming Adam, remember, Adam elected to stay by you, even though you had screwed up and it meant his death. Is that love? You tell me. Well, I'm about getting resistant to women at this age. I feel greatly relieved for it. Y'all cause too much trouble. I'm sorry, it's not a man's world, it's a woman's world. Just has the illusion, the surface dynamic is that it's a patriarchy. But at this point, I can tell you that the women are running the show from behind the scenes and have been running it for quite a while. I haven't gotten a hold of my friend from India who would know this stuff, but I'm going to get a hold of him. He's really a bright guy. Josh. Anyway, Josh told me a little bit about the Nadi. I think that's what they were called. And if you ever look at the Jimi Hendrix Experience album, or was it Axis, you will see that these snakes, king cobras, are up over his head blessing him. That symbol of that cult of Mithras that basically has been ruling the world in secret from behind the scenes with their poisons, what they're noted for. Gee, what else are poisons today? Oh, that's right. The pharmaceuticals are all poisons, built on principles of toxicity and disabling. And the serpents, the serpent class, were sentenced to eat the dust of the earth. The dust that they put into those little tablets is what we think it means. Could mean eat men, I don't know. But Adam was not sentenced to eating the dust of the earth. Adam was supposed to use the green leafy vegetable for herbs for healing and for medicine and for food. And that's what the Garden of Eden is, the banks of the habitation, the green lush trees on the banks of the river of life. That's what they're there for. We're supposed to be using their herbs. They made herbologists illegal. The last guy I worked with, who was really good, I think they imprisoned him. That was more than 5 years ago. They were insisting he agree to take 5 years, and he didn't do anything wrong. I guess they just couldn't have a man out there who could tell you how to fix yourself and heal yourself without using their poisons. Big pharma, pharmacopoeia, sorceries. The land of Khazaria. Wow. What are we here today? Are we the land of Khazaria? Are we Babylon? Or are we Israel?